Greetings, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Cheryl Jennison DeProsa, and today I'm joined by Laura Davidson and Corey Willis, and they are going to talk us through microphone selection and placement for podcasting and mobile recording. But before we get into that, just a few items of housekeeping. First of all, as you can probably tell from our webcams, we are not coming from our usual controlled environment at the Shure offices. We are all coming to you remotely from our homes. So we hope that we don't expect there will be any audio or internet issues, but if there are, please be patient. You know, we think it's more important to get this information out to you. So if we do run into any bandwidth issues, please just be patient. We'll work through those together. This webinar is being recorded. All of our webinars are recorded and available for on-demand viewing at shure.com/webinars. You can also see all of our upcoming webinars there. So please feel free to go to shure.com/webinars, see all of our upcoming sessions, and view our past recorded archived versions. Just so you know, it does take us a couple of days to get the video edited. So it should be available either Friday or Monday. Give us a little bit of time, but it'll be available at shure.com/webinars. And then lastly, as we go through the session today, if you have any questions, please type those into the question pane. If you are using the web app and you don't see it, look for that little circle with the question mark in it. Or if you're using the actual GoToWebinar control panel, look for a dark gray toolbar with an orange box with a white arrow on it. Click on that orange box and you will get access to the question pane. Ask any questions that may crop up in your head as we go through, but please note that we will be holding on questions until the end of the session. Type in those questions, be patient, and I will present them to the presenters at the end. All right, that wraps up all the housekeeping. Let's get into the good stuff. Take it away, guys.
All right. Thanks, Cheryl, and thanks everybody for being here. We are going to be talking to you about a few different things today, but just a quick intro so you know who we are and why we get to talk at you for the next little while. I'm Laura Davidson, and I head up the market development team for the retail side of things. And basically what Corey and I get to do is go around and teach people about the brand in new and exciting ways and find new ways of talking about the brand. Corey, what else would you add for what we do?
Yeah, so anything from technical trainings to, new product trainings, educational events, but yeah, trade shows. So this is kind of a new way of us being able to connect with people and, either teach them or refresh them on the things that Shure makes.
Yep. So we love being here with you virtually or otherwise. So today, let's jump right in. What we're going to talk about today is just some podcasting basics in regards to what to think about when you're starting a podcast from a concept level. And then we're going to talk about microphones, how you can choose the best one for your application, where you should place it, determined by where you're going to be using it. And then also what to do with your podcast once you get it all recorded and edited. So that's kind of the basic overview there. And Corey and I are going to be tag teaming throughout this, just kind of keeping it conversational. So we look forward to hearing your questions at the end. But we're just going to have a great time and talk about podcasting because it's super fun. It's a great topic. So let's get right into it. Corey, why don't you kick us off with this one? Because this is his brainchild, and I just steal it on a regular basis and pretend that it's mine. So go for it.
All right. Yeah. So I think, now more than ever, people have, time to tap into that creative outlet that they've been meaning to. So this is kind of whether it's your first podcast or, you've recorded 100 before, this is kind of just a way to jumpstart the content that you're creating. So some basics with podcasting. Once you get started, or if you're looking to kind of refresh the content that you're making, you want to choose a hook. So definitely, you want to choose a subject that not only interests you, so that you're able to be up on the research and all the content that you're creating, but also something that may interest an audience. Chances are, if you're interested in the subject, there's 100,000 or more people out there that want to learn about the same subject that you want to talk about. So yeah, that's the first thing. Is kind of pick a subject that means a lot to you and something that you want to talk about at length. So next thing would be name your podcast. This could be your name. This could be a brand name. This could be, Laura's audio podcast. That's very, very descriptive, but also, yeah, catchy. But, it basically, it gets to the point. And when someone, starts searching, for, I want to listen to podcasts about live sound, or I want to listen to podcasts about cooking, or, planting new plants around my my apartment, and tips and tricks for that, they'll be able to search that. That kind of leads into, you know, how you describe your podcast. So with the description, you want to, you know, include a summary of what the show is about or what the episode is about that you're recording. But also, you know, some natural keywords that can lead people to that. So, you know, back to say the cooking reference. If you're teaching people how to bake an apple pie, and someone wants an audio lesson on how to do that, audio or video lesson on how to do that, they can search for that. The last thing is to you know, to actually just create it. So what we're going to talk about on this this webinar is, you know, getting started, whether you own a microphone or don't, you know, and basically going from point A to point B being getting it actually out on the internet. So, you know, getting it into your listeners' ears. One thing that going back to choosing a hook, you want to choose something that, you know, like I said, you can talk about at lengths, but also you want to get to that point in your episode quick enough to where someone doesn't just close their phone or switch to a different episode or throw some music on or hit pause. You want them to, you know, put their phone back in their pocket or go back to working on whatever they're working on and be able to listen to the episode. So that hook is very important. We mentioned it first for a reason. And so, yeah, that's kind of some tips on how to get started in terms of, you know, if you've never had a podcast before. But yeah, that's what I've got for this one.
Yeah, also it's helpful. Yeah, the hook's super important. And also to keep in mind when you are thinking of the hook, you also should think about, can I talk about this for several episodes? Because you're not just going to do a one-off. I mean, maybe you'd do a one-off podcast, but that would be just you doing a recording and not a podcast, honestly. Yeah. So, you know, can you talk about this for 5 to 10 episodes? So you want to make sure that the idea that you are going to talk to people about is something that you feel really passionate about and that there's enough info to continue talking about it for several hours. So that's also important. But, you know, once you've got all the kind of building blocks there and you've figured out what you want it to be and what you want to talk about, then you need to kind of get thinking about the hardware that you're going to be using. And there are tons of options out there. Of course, we are Shure. So we're going to talk about our options because we love them. But when you are considering the mic to choose, it's not just about price point or how cool it looks. It's really about how you're going to be using it, where you're going to be using it, and also how much you want to spend, and then any other accessories that you're going to need to treat the space. So if you think about what you're trying to record, is it going to be just you, or is it going to be you and you're going to be interviewing people? Is it going to be you out in the field? So you want a microphone that can capture the environment around you as well as just your voice. Are you going to be recording instruments? Do you need multiple microphones? And then when you're settled on that, you can then think of where you're planning to record. So literally, what's the space going to be? Is it going to be a room like this? Is it going to be a small space where you can control the environment a little bit more? Because that's going to actually determine what you're thinking of as in terms of a dynamic or a condenser, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then we'll talk about budget. Let's not get there yet. So Corey, let's talk about dynamic microphone versus condenser and what would make somebody kind of choose one over the other.
Yeah. So, you know, but just to put a pin in your, you know, that, you know, you don't need to spend a lot of money. It's important to note that the last slide, you know, we talk about actually, you know, conceptualizing the content, but, you know, you can have the best content in the world, but if it doesn't sound good, then people are going to pass it right over. So, but, you know, that being said, yeah, you don't need to, you know, have expensive equipment to start a podcast. So, yeah, to your point, the basics, you know, with selecting whether you want a dynamic or a condenser, my opinion would be it depends on the space that you're going to be recording in typically, and frankly what you're going to be recording. So we're both using dynamic mics. The SM7B is you know, very directional. And it captures the human voice very well. That's why it's one of our best-selling, you know, broadcast microphones. But you don't necessarily need to have the SM7B. When it comes to dynamic mics, those are going to be best suited for, you know, rooms that are maybe not acoustically treated. I'm surrounded by windows. I've got, flat reflective surfaces all around, and it's still a fairly dead recording. So, but whether it's the SM7B or an SM58, if you're familiar, or, your favorite Freddie Mercury 565, these will all do the trick for, a room that's not necessarily purposed for podcast recording. So that would be my, I guess, basic rundown of a dynamic. A condenser, will capture the subtleties of, of your voice, and I guess will give you a little bit more to work with in terms of if you're doing any sort of editing afterwards, EQing, et cetera, of the voice, and it will capture more of the room noise as it's more sensitive inherently. But yeah, it really depends on the space that you're working in, and I mean, there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to mic selection, in my opinion. Experiment, but definitely know that microphones are dumb. They will pick up everything, whether you want them to or not. So, once again, we're both using dynamic because, we're just in an office or home office now. And I don't know what acoustic rating you have.
Environment, we call it.
A controlled environment.
Yes.
At times.
It's not very controlled most of the time, honestly, but right now it is.
Yeah, so that would be my, those are my suggestions when it comes to, dynamic versus condenser. It also, if for some reason your podcast or your recording is going to have an element of, live music, or, some, you want to do some additional field recordings and then capture audio, and you want a one-stop shop to be able to record found audio, field recordings, and your voice, maybe a condenser is the way to go there,
And just a brief kind of overview, if you guys aren't familiar with the differences between a dynamic and a condenser. A dynamic, this is our PGA 58. I took its cute little windscreen off here. But you can see here, it takes a lot more mechanics for a dynamic microphone to produce the signal, because it's actually has a diaphragm that's attached to a magnet with a metal coil. When you talk into this, it vibrates the diaphragm, which moves the magnet and the coil within a magnetic field, creates a signal that goes down the mic. So it takes a little bit more oomph to get this guy to work. So it's better for higher SPL level spaces, bands, louder noises, whereas a condenser is a thinner piece for the diaphragm. It's much more delicate, and it's got, instead of having that magnet to move, it's powered by phantom power. So that's when you hear that mythical term of phantom power. It's essentially just providing power to the back plate for a condenser's diaphragm so that it can physically get that signal and convert it into an electrical signal. So it's more sensitive. So dynamic for your more louder environments where you want to block out other noises coming into it, and a condenser for a more controlled environment, unless you have the SM7B, which is a dynamic and is an exception to the rule. But, that's okay. We'll talk about that later. So, yeah. So dynamic, condenser, there's a bunch of choices there, but if you're in a controlled space, condenser can be a really good solution.
Yeah, and so the setup that we're both using today is the SM7B through our Shure interface, the MVI. It's a single channel interface. This thing actually, there you go. Mine's not able to move because my desk is a mess. Yeah, so it's a single channel interface. It can plug into your iPhone or Mac or PC. And just as Laura was describing with condenser mics, it sometimes they require, well, all condensers require phantom power. This can do that for you. So whether you have a condenser or dynamic, you can plug this right into your phone or into your computer. You can use it, as we're doing right now, for live streaming. But this isn't the end all be all. When it comes to mic selection, we also have some very easy to use and quick setup solutions. The MV51.
Let's go to this bad boy and show them all the whole family.
Yeah. The whole family. So, yeah, this is a great solution for, not only podcasting, but, you can do any sort of like vocal or speech or music recording with it. It mounts to a mic stand or has a nice little tabletop little rest on it. Let's see. We've got
Even
the
without that,
MV5.
it sits on your desktop. Mine went the way of the dodo a long time ago. But
you
it
lost
still sits on your desktop very nicely, yes.
Yeah, so this is a large diaphragm condenser, but you know, so it's honestly it's great to just set on your desk next to your laptop or your keyboard, and it can still pick up your voice, and you know, is directional enough to kind of block out any other sounds behind your desk that you may have or pets wandering around.
It also
So
has a
both
very
of
cool
those,
control panel on it. That one and the MVI.
yeah.
Those guys.
Yeah, so both of them have the same control panel, which allows you to, so, you know, all of the settings for these are fully configurable through the app that we have, the Shure Plus Motive audio and video app. But you can also just very quickly touch through the different modes. I don't know if you can see in the photo there with the family photo, but you can go, you know, it uses different compressor settings, different level settings, etc. And you can change your gain control right on the front headphone level. You can mute the mic if for some reason, you know, you have that outside noise and you want to kind of mute real quick. But yeah, it's very easy to use. Once again, you can configure it with the app, but you don't necessarily have to. We make these things so you can plug it right in and get started, whether you have knowledge of how to use a mic or not.
Right. And they're also a great option, as we're going to talk about some more of them. We mentioned budget, and they're a great option if you're concerned with budget, because there's something for everyone here. And they range from $69 to $249 for this guy here, the MV88 Plus video kit. So it's not a ton of investment, but you get a lot, especially with things like the MVI and the MV51, where you can change up your presets and have control using the app. But this one here, the MV88 Plus, which Corey and I can show you in a second, this is kind of my favorite, just because it's very, very versatile. It is a stereo condenser mic. So when I take this guy off, you can see, if I can get it, take off my windscreen and the mic in the process, you can see that it has two diaphragms there. The stereo mic, left and right, labeled for those of us who can't keep track. And it comes with this whole kit that you see here. And why that's useful when you have a stereo mic is because with our app, you can actually go in there and never wants to work when I have the window like this. Change the pickup pattern. Okay.
You can see your neighbor's house a little bit.
I know you like that. It's got a nice yard. So you can switch it between stereo and mono cardioid. If I switch it to that and mono bidirectional. And why that's useful is if you put it into the mono cardioid, this little heart-shaped guy, then you can do a quick vlog post, you know, just pointing it directly at you. And then if you put it into mono bidirectional, that turns off the front mic and then let you have one person here and one person there and do an interview without having to do the pass back and forth action. So it's a great solution, especially because it comes with this whole rig you see here. So it's great for content creation, podcasting, field recording, blogging, all of the above. But it can also sit on your desk.
Yeah. So you mentioned the $249 price point of that. The only other mic that we make that does the mid-side or stereo mode like that is our VP88, and that goes for $999. So I mean, you're getting a really powerful tool that's fully configurable, you know, in the app, and it's at a price point, you know, just a quarter of the only other mic that we make that does the same thing. So.
And we should say, be sure to check pricing in your region, because we are speaking from the United States region, so it does vary, but
excellent.
Just a general idea there. All right, so we've talked about MV51, MVI, MV88 Plus, and there's this guy too, which I just got back.
Black one. Cool.
I know. And I let somebody borrow this, and it's been with them for months because they loved it so much. So this is the MV5, also a condenser mic. It can sit on this stand, or you can unscrew this little guy here and put it onto something like the Manfrotto Pixie tripod with a 1/4-inch thread. It also has two different, some preset options that you can toggle between right on the mic itself, right here. Toggle between those. Headphone out, and then this is your USB for powering up the mic. So that's what I love about these, is that you can monitor your audio in real time, which is so important, especially if you're podcasting and you're new to it. If you don't know a ton about audio recording and placement, which we'll go into, this will be a nice kind of segue. These can help you a little bit because you can monitor it and you'll just move it closer to yourself or further away if you hear it, and then adjust your gain, which Corey's going to tell you a little bit about. So that's kind of the family, and the MV88 on top of the iPhone that you see in the picture. And the MVL, which is a little lavalier mic that plugs right into the headphone jack of your device. Okay, so that's those. Let's talk about where to put these guys, though, so we get some good sounds.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you've got to the point where you've selected what subject you want to talk about. You've picked a name for your podcast. You may have picked cover art. You've got a few episodes lined up that you want to start recording, and you just purchased a microphone or an interface and a microphone, or any combination of those. And now you're ready to hit record. There are a few things to consider before you, just start recording and, then have to go back and redo things. So the first tip that I would suggest is consistency is key. So what that means is distance from your voice to the mic, or your sound source to the mic, remains the same and constant while you're recording, so that you're not turning your head and changing how your voice sounds. Once again, microphones are dumb and they don't know that you're turning your head. And if you're turning away from the microphone, your voice is going to sound different. So once again, consistency is key when it comes to microphone placement. Some things to help with that. It's a later point there, but maybe you want to utilize a mic stand. Doesn't necessarily have to be a boom stand like this. It can be a small desktop stand that you have, once again, just right next to your computer, or in the case of the MV51, you have it set. You monitor your audio. You get everything set up, and you maintain where you're sitting, how you're speaking, and make sure that it's consistent, so that when you're going back and editing and doing any sort of changes, that it all sounds the same, and so that your listener, once we get to that point, your listener isn't constantly adjusting the volume of. There's nothing worse than a podcast where you have to keep, oh my gosh, I have to make this louder or softer depending on who's speaking or at what point of the podcast. So, but once again, mic placement, maintaining a consistent placement, whether that's utilizing a boom stand, mic stand, or just very diligently holding the mic as you're speaking, is all very important and a great starting point before you even hit record. Once again, before you hit record, proper gain staging is very, very important.
Very important, which I think a lot of people don't know what gain actually is. So we should probably talk about that, because we just go by it and then people are like, wait, what's gain? So do you want to hit it, or you want me to?
Go for it.
Okay, so essentially gain is what you're going to be adjusting to give the signal to the microphone itself. So it's your level. And mine has actually gotten lower throughout this, I just realized. So you can adjust how much signal is going to the mic and then to your device so that you can be heard. So that's kind of how I describe it. That's probably not the Webster definition, so throw something else on there, Corey.
Yeah, no, so whether you are recording straight into, your device via the Motive app, or, into a DAW on your computer, GarageBand, etc., you are going to see more often than not a meter. So red is bad. Red means stop. Your gain is way too high. Once again, once you set your mic placement there.
Yeah, we can show them here a little bit too.
A visual example.
I do. I can set my mic gain here. This is my gain here. My levels. You can see the little green. Gotta get it there so you can see it. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. You don't want it hidden in the red. So if I adjust the fader all the way up and snap, yeah, you don't want it to go into the red. It's not good.
Yeah, so with gain staging, the reason why this is so important is you can add things such as compressors, limiters, etc. But once your mic is clipping or in the red there when it comes to the metering and the gain, you can't really take that away. You can't edit it out.
Right.
If you got a good take, if you had a good flow to the episode you're recording, or the just the recording in general, and you're very happy with that take, and then it's clipping, then you're going to have to go and redo it. And yes. Yeah, and you may not be speaking as well. You may not be, touching on points, or if you happen to have an interviewee, you may lose pace with them and then have to go and redo the whole conversation. So, mic placement, being very consistent, and proper gain staging before you even hit record, two very, very important things. Just as important, you want to avoid any sort of outside noise or distractions. Before we got started with this, it's the same case. We're closing out our email notifications. Actually, good call. I'm going to mute my actual computer there. Okay. So yeah, we, you want to close out any sort of email notifications. If you're recording on your computer, you want to set your phone aside, either put it on silent or turn it off. Depending on, if it's your home or your creative space, you may want to let others that are, may come in and out of the room to let them know that, hey, I'm about to record. And, once again, it's just so that you don't throw off that flow of the episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, you can edit out any sort of outside noise. Some things you can't help. Street sweeper outside right before we got started.
Mowing right next to me all of a sudden. I'm hoping you can't hear him, but that's life in the suburbs. But also, yeah, you want to just make sure that if you are positioning your mic, you want to look around first, make sure there's not an air return directly blowing into it, or you're right next to your HVAC unit or a fan. Those are things we forget about until we're in the moment, and then we've got to set everything up again. So that's also important to consider.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just getting any of those, distractions or potential outside noise, anything that can throw you off or make its way into your microphone. You want to make sure that that those are definitely, avoided at all costs. So
yes.
We talked about a mic stand, and once again, that is to kind of improve the consistency and the the distance from your microphone and its placement. But also, I mean, in the case of a boom stand like this, it's avoiding vibrations from my hands touching the desk here, or typing, or scrolling through your laptop and with your notes or your outline. So I mean, there's a lot of, or just getting it off of the junk that's on my desk that you can't see.
Getting it up and out.
So
yes.
Up and out of the way, so I can still use it and have my coffees and my other mics and stuff around here. Right. So yeah, mic stand, very important. I wouldn't say it's completely necessary, but I would mark it down as an accessory that I would pick up. And once again, the MV88 Plus comes with one, so that's pretty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Super handy.
Right.
So does the MV51,
and
so does the MV5, just in case you're playing along at home.
Yeah. Consistency in the box. Can't beat it. And so, just that last point there, we talked about dynamic versus condenser. That'll also, affect where you place the mic. You don't want to place the mic too far away to where you're gaining things up and then you're picking up outside noise. That will happen with either of those, but especially if, you've got a condenser mic halfway across your desk, and you've got things on your desk moving around, you're taking sips of water, etc. It's going to pick all of that up. So
right.
It really depends on your setup, where you place the mic, or the microphone you're using, where you place it. But more often than not, you should be able to get a consistent and close distance to it, and get some good results. So that's all I have for that.
That's a lot. That's definitely the things you want to take into consideration. How are you going to record it? Where are you going to put the mic? And then next up in the kind of plan here is to talk about what you're going to record into. So there's a lot of different options. You can plug in directly to your devices with our microphones, those Motive microphones. We have two great apps, the Motive Audio app and the Motive Video app, which are available in the App Store for both iOS and Android. But the thing to take into consideration is, are you going to be recording into what's called a DAW, Digital Audio Workstation, or your mobile app? So GarageBand is what I have shown here, and then I have Anchor shown in the device itself. And that's really a preference. If you want it to be really simple, down and dirty, you know, get the audio in there and then get it up and out to the world, things like Anchor are a great solution for that. So mobile recording can be really helpful there. But if you're using a DAW, you have a lot more flexibility in post to edit things, fly in special effects, teasers, music, transitions, you know, all of that. So I tend to like to record in a DAW, definitely. But, you know, sometimes it calls for a mobile application.
Yeah, I think it's really situational. It depends on, you know, what the content that you're creating and producing really, luckily most of our all of our Motive mics are made to be used, you know, at home or in the field. So if, you happen to be out and about in a, normal situation and you need this interview with this person, you can easily plug right into your phone, capture that audio, and then, take it back home and add that into your episode. So I sometimes you can use these in tandem. I frequently use both. I think it really depends on, say you're a songwriter. We're going off on a tangent here, but say you're a songwriter and an idea comes to you. Phone recordings are very, very powerful to track down that idea. And that could apply to, a podcast as well. A quick idea for a new subject to talk about or, notes for an episode. And
that's what
boom,
this guy is
right
super great for. The MV88 that plugs directly into the bottom of your iOS devices, killer for capturing ideas on the fly. I don't leave home without it.
Absolutely. And, when it comes to, we talked about the gain control within the Shure Plus app and that's available for these, that's not automatic and the phone doing it for you is very powerful as well.
Very powerful. Yes, absolutely. So you need to determine what platform you're going to feel most comfortable with. And also, as Corey said, what suits your podcasting style. If you're doing something that's more field-based, then you might want something that's a little more down and dirty and mobile and simple. But that's kind of a personal preference. And once you do start recording, there are a couple of different things to think about. These are just very basic level recommendations. Now, when you get into your software of choice, it's different for everything, but these are kind of some guidelines to start with. So the first thing you'd want to do is open a new session in your DAW or your mobile app. And I should say that in this step one image, that is the Motive Audio app that you're seeing. So you can see that this is your gain level that Corey and I talked about. You can set it here and see the metering in real time. But then it's just as simple as pushing record. And then you can, of course, when you're doing that, you're going to check your levels, which we talked about for your gain. Check your surroundings. Make sure, the kids are watching their iPads and the dog is outside or whatever. And make sure that there's no noises or distractions like Corey mentioned. And then do a test first. Don't just hit go and record the entire thing because you want to make sure that everything's sounding great. Even though we have that real-time monitoring, still really want to check it. Right, Corey?
Absolutely. Yeah, there could be things that, you're hearing your own voice and you're recording and everything's sounding great, but you go back and listen and there's, a dog barking in the background or, children yelling, etc. So,
So again, very basic level steps here to consider, but it's really not that complicated. I think we tend to overthink it. And we're in this beautiful time where you can really get these ideas and these concepts and podcasts out to the world with a lot less heavy lifting required. So, but just keep these kind of preparatory steps in mind so you're not just jumping right in and then having to start over because that's never fun. And then post-production, once you've recorded it. Okay. So once you've recorded it, go for it.
Yeah. So, you've came up with a subject to talk about. You've got your mic. You've checked your levels. Your mic's placed properly. Everyone in the house is being quiet, and you got a great flow to your episode, and you're ready to take the next step. You hit stop, and what do I do now? Editing your recording is something that sometimes less is more. But will allow you to go back and maybe compress things, add a little bit of reverb, change the sound of the room that you have, change the sound of your voice in general. If you want to sound like a robot on your podcast, you can do that. So going back and editing is a very powerful step in, after you're done recording and you got a great take and you've got some really good subject matter on record and you want to go back and just kind of polish. This will also allow you to go back and re-record things. Say, you want to reword something or you didn't really drive a point home that you wanted to, or you meant to touch on some things that you forgot. You can go back and re-record sections of your podcast. But as the next point says, you want to always be precise with everything, with all of your edits. You want to keep it sounding natural. You don't want to edit out every single breath. I mean, you can, but frankly, that's not going to sound natural. People are going to be like, does this person not breathe? So you want to be as precise as possible with your edits. You don't want to have, sections that you've re-recorded or edited out too close together. Once again, just keep it natural. People are going to want to tune in and listen to you because it sounds like someone speaking directly to them and not just a robotic voice, despite my robot option there for editing. But yeah, it also applies to say you want to add some extra incentive into your listeners to tune into your podcast and you have an interview. That interview, just as this webinar here, is meant to be very conversational, meant to have a back and forth. You don't want to edit out every, blank space in between. You want to keep that conversation very, very natural as well. Because, interviews can add a lot of value to your, to your content, to your podcast and episodes in general. So.
Mm-hmm. And just to speak to what you're looking at here, as far as the image goes, this is also our Motive app, and you can do some very basic editing within here. You can trim it, you can split the tracks, and then click and drag to edit sections out, where you messed up, or let's say the beginning of the podcast, you're just bantering, and then you finally get into it. You can just edit that out, and then you can share it directly from the app, which is nice, via AirDrop or email or text message, or get it out to the internet, which we'll talk about in just a minute for some different platforms. So you can do some light editing there if you don't have a DAW. So it's kind of a nice thing to do. To do the last bullet on that list, you will need to use a DAW to get that royalty-free music in there. And that's very important to go with royalty-free because, first of all, you don't want to be taking advantage of musicians out there who work very hard to create music that they need to make money from, but you don't want to get in trouble with the law. So make sure that it's royalty-free.
Yeah, and also, it just adds value for your episodes. This isn't necessarily mic related, but in talking about podcasting basics, having a theme or some underlying music or some transitionary music can definitely add value and add to a podcast that would otherwise just be, your voice, which not that there's anything wrong with your voice, but, people want to hear, almost like a radio show. I mean, podcast is new radio essentially.
That's right.
And but royalty free, whether you create it or whether you find it online, as royalty free music, it's a very valuable adage to your episode. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Create it yourself too. That'd be cool.
That's right. I highly recommend that because then you have complete control. All right. So you've got your whole concept down. You've figured out which mic you want to use. You've recorded it. You've edited it. You've done some post-production recommendations. And now you have to get it out into the world. And the good news is there are a ton of ways to do that. The bad news is there are a ton of ways to do that. So it's kind of what's going to be the best solution for you. And the easy answer is what feels the easiest to you. Because, like, for example, the Anchor platform is really, really simple. But if you're an established podcaster, it might be too simple for you. Audacity, super fun to use, great user interface. These are actual production tools where you can get in there and record your podcast and then distribute it as well. Whereas something like Podbean or Stitcher, or iTunes is a good example. iTunes is just the distribution platform. So you're getting your podcast to it so that people can find it. Same thing with Spotify. So you're not going to be doing any recording or production or editing there, whereas something like an Anchor or an Audacity have that capability in it. And then there's also whole companies and publishing companies that offer you the full production suite. So you come to them, you say, I want to do a podcast about dogs. And you concept it out with them. They help you record it. I would listen to that all the time. Just about dogs. And they record it, they edit it, they produce it, they edit it, and then they distribute it for you. So there's full suite solutions for that as well. So it's really your preference. I mean, I'd say if you're a business approaching a podcast for the first time, for like a brand, go with a production company. If you are me or Corey and you just want to put out your podcast, which I'm currently working on right now, you can probably just do it on your own. So I'm recording mine in the Motive app and then editing it in Logic. So, it's personal preference, but the good news is there's tons out there to look for. So maybe if you have any specific questions, we can answer those, answer that during the Q&A. But I just real quick before we do that, I just wanted to go back over to this guy, oops, sorry, to talk about our mics just one more time so that we can give you kind of an overview of use case applications and give you a basic idea, because I think we know them so well that we forget that you guys don't know them well necessarily. Mm-hmm. Oh, and we didn't do our poll. Oh my gosh, we totally have to do that. Cheryl, can you throw that poll up there, would you?
I would be happy to. All right, let's see. Me find.
Sorry, guys. Totally forgot the play along feature. And now it's still relevant, though, Corey. Totally.
All right. So I'm launching.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely.
All right. So I'm launching the poll right now. And so we want to know how you typically would record. So we've got a couple of options there. Please make your selection. Do you record using a smartphone or a device, a laptop, a desktop machine, or you go all analog, you're old school.
Old school, yes. I do it on my DAT. I do it on my 8-track.
Wish I could afford it.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, I would say if you could afford it, that's what I bet you would use, Corey.
That would be fun.
So the votes are coming in, starting to stream in. Once we get to about 50%, I think we'll close it.
Okay.
Interesting numbers coming in so far.
Ooh.
We had an early lead, but then that leveled off as more people voted, which I always love seeing. Well, I mean, when you only have like 1%, obviously it's going to skew.
Yeah, there is that. Good point.
All right, so we are at 61%. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. And now I'm going to show you those results. So it looks like laptop definitely takes the lead with 44%, followed up by desktop and then smartphone device. And then we got a couple of old school people with the all analog option there. So
love it.
All right.
Okay,
jealous.
That's
very jealous.
Yeah, I know, right? But that's very helpful to know what you're looking for, because we didn't really touch much on interfaces. We talked about the MVI, which we make, which is a single channel interface, but it's important to know that if you do want multiple inputs, then you need to get an interface or a mixer that's going to go directly into your laptop or your computer. So that's definitely something to consider when you're using your mic. But the great news with something like the MVI is that you can take your favorite analog, your favorite dynamic mic, for example, and plug it in and get it into your computer or your device very easily. But if you're doing multiple inputs into your laptop, you'll definitely want a multiple channel interface. Cool. All right. So just to talk about the products real quick, again. So in our Motive family, there we are. It's like, where did the video go?
Sorry about that.
So that's fine. In the Motive family, just a couple of things to mention here. So you have the MV88, which is great, again, for plugging directly into the device, the iOS device of your choice. That's this guy here. Same mic as the MV88 Plus as far as it being a stereo condenser mic. You can see very similar. So this is great for field recording, mobile journalism, capturing song ideas on the fly. It does have this cool rotating barrel, so you don't have to pop it off if you want to change that stereo image. Then we have our MVL, which is a lavalier mic that plugs into the headphone jack via TRRS, omnidirectional lav, for capturing interviews. Or you could just kind of walk through the woods and do a podcast on the woods and just talk. That'd be kind of cool. If you steal that idea, just give me some credit. The MV5, which is a condenser mic that sits on the desktop or can thread onto a tripod, has different preset options, headphone out, volume control right on the top, 2 different color options. Corey's got the silver.
Black and silver.
Yeah. It just looks really cool. MV51, you want to take that one, Corey?
Yeah, the MV51. Large diaphragm condenser. We talked about it earlier, but just a refresher. So this, has all of your necessary controls on the front. So whether you utilize our free app to set it up, or you just right out of the box want to plug it into your, iPhone or your computer, you can get started right away just with some presets on the front, as well as mute and volume control. There's also a headphone level control. All of these, with the exception of the MVL and the MV88, the iPhone plug one, they all have a headphone jack on the back, so you can do all of your real-time audio monitoring using that. Other cool thing about this one is that it's desktop, but also has the option to unscrew this rubber piece and go right onto a mic stand. So I could just plug this right onto this boom stand, and or any other desktop stand, but it's comes with its own. You can set it right next to your laptop, and whether you're tracking, just new ideas, doing live streams like this, or doing, a full-on podcast recording, or music in general, it's kind of a, really good for any application thing. But it's metal, it's durable, and it's definitely a fan favorite of this product line.
Mm-hmm. This is kind of the rock star.
What am I forgetting?
I'm not going to lie. This is our little rock star, the MV88 Plus. It may not look like the form factor you would think of for a podcast, but it can sit on your desk just like this. And you could get it set up, has that headphone out on the back for monitoring in real time. You can change the polar pattern. And we should point out, too, that there is a difference between polar pattern and dynamic and condenser microphones, because I think a lot of people get confused by that. The polar pattern is the signal that it will pick up, so in the proximity to the microphone and how it can hear the signal. As Corey said, microphones are dumb, so they're not going to reach out and grab the sound. So the polar pattern determines how much of the sound they can hear and be picked up by the microphone. So because this is switchable, it can serve a lot of purposes, let you do interviews, let you do your own thing. And it's small and packs away and sounds awesome.
The hardware itself is also very modular, so you can just connect it right to the stand, set that on your desk, plug it in your computer, and boom, you have a very versatile condenser mic on your desk.
So I think we got everything there. So let's answer some questions. Let's do this.
Yes.
Great.
What do you got, Cheryl?
We do have some questions. All righty. Sorry, let me adjust my light so I'm not a ghost that's blinding you all with my my quarantined complexion.
Chicago weather.
Alrighty, so let's see. Let me just get these sorted here. Okay, so first question that I have here is, does Shure have a XLR USB combo microphone? We don't.
We don't. I'm like, no. Well, no, not XLR USB.
Nope.
No.
Yeah, no combo at this time.
The only thing I could think of would be if you already own your favorite Shure microphone and you're just looking for something that can do both. You could just utilize the MVI, take that USB, and then take that same mic to a venue or another analog desk or whatever, and plug into that. So.
Speaking of interfaces, I don't think I heard you guys also mention we have the X2U as well, which is another interface. The only difference to that one is that one is laptop, desktop only, doesn't have the mobile connectivity, but that's another great, and it also doesn't have the combo jack. So if you have an existing XLR,
let me grab it. I'll grab mine.
Alrighty.
Mine's locked away in the office. So.
As so many of my things are as well. Next question.
Here's this guy just real quick. Yeah. This is the X2U, just in case people are wondering what it looks like.
Yep.
So it's an inline option.
And it also has the onboard monitoring and all that other good stuff. So, yep.
Fan and power. Okay.
All right. Next question. What are the pros and cons of a USB mic versus an XLR mic? I've seen a small growth of both USB and XLR in one mics.
Corey, you want to take that?
I'd say it really depends on what you're looking to do. If a lot of the recordings that you're looking to do are going to be directly into your computer, in the case of Motive, into your iPhone, then I'd say a USB mic is more than fine for that application. If as in the previous question, you want it to be more versatile and you want to be able to sit down at your desk and record, but also take it into your band practice room and utilize the same vocal mic, or it really depends on the application. So if a lot of the stuff that you're doing is recording straight to a computer, or doing live streams, or just straight into your device, then I'd say a USB mic is more than fine for that. There are pros and cons to both, depending on what you're doing with it.
Great. All right, so I believe this next question came up when we were talking about adjusting settings on Motive microphones. What's the name of the app we were referring to at that point?
Yes, so the Shure Plus Motive Audio app is what we were talking about. And there's a video version as well, same name. Available now for free.
You can see it pictured right there.
That's right.
Fantastic. All righty. Next question. I'll actually take this one. Does Shure have a podcast? We actually do have a podcast. It's called the Shure Signal Path podcast. You should be able to find it on any of your preferred podcast listening platforms. We also host it on our website. If you go to shure.com and search for Signal Path, you can see some of those past sessions. And basically, it's a podcast where we interview people that make music, people that produce music, and we talk to them sort of about their creative process and how they come up with their ideas. So it's a really fun, interesting podcast, Signal Path. All right, next question. Okay, so speaking on the MV88 Plus, this person says, I find the bidirectional setting is tricky. I can control my voice distance and volume, but I find my interviewees are wiggling around and varying their volume and distance. I guess better direction is the answer. Do you guys have any comments or suggestions on that?
First, you attach them to the chair and then secure them. No, yeah, it's very directional.
So this is something. This is something that came up when I was in customer service quite a bit. Specifically with like lavalier mics. I have a speaker that keeps turning their head. What can I do? Well, depending on how well you know them, you can tell them to stop turning their head or to stop moving around. But if they won't, then you may need to get creative and mic them up in a different way than the bidirectional mode. But depending on how comfortable you feel with the interviewee or the subject, you may just want to let them know, for your voice to sound better, for this recording to sound better, I'll need you to, sit in this particular place and speak directly into the microphone, So it's tricky. Requires some subtlety.
Awesome. All right, next question. I've noticed by doing Facebook Live shows that the MV88 is suited for what I normally do, which is play guitar and talk and sing. I've noticed a lot of people doing the Facebook Live with a PA in their home, and I think the MV88 would sound better. I can't wait to use it with a band and see how it reacts to the power of a PA system. Any tips for that once I get the band together?
Yes. Put it in loud mode. So in the Motive Audio app, and if you look on this guy. Here, they have the different app icons here and the presets. The one that looks like a little monitor, you put it in that. It's a really great solution for louder applications. If you're trying to capture a concert, it's one of the main things that's great about an 88 or an 88 Plus is that you can put it into that preset mode and it adjusts your gain staging so that it's not going to overpower the mic and clip like Corey was talking about. So definitely put it in loud mode if you're going to bring it in with the band. But yeah, it's tricky with everybody live streaming and using Facebook and trying to get the best sound. It's miking a PA is a delicate art, which we'd recommend miking directly. But go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, so what I've been able to do with utilizing this for, doing band demos and some just, higher quality demo recordings, we actually utilized let me find my phone here. We utilized a cup holder like a mic stand cup holder, mounted this thing this way with it rotated so your left and right's facing the band. Think about it in terms of like how you're going to actually hear a recording typically. So we had it facing the drums with a guitar cab on either side and then the PA on either side, bass somewhere, near the drums, and then have everyone play and keep taking that gain down until it's not clipping. You can add compressors. We have, 3 compressor settings with this. Make sure that everyone's playing as loud as they're going to play. Drummers hitting all the cymbals, snare drum, etc., and then adjust the gain control until it's not clipping any longer. But the placement's also key. With the stereo mode, and then kind of center of the room, and maybe move amps and PA things around so that you're getting the stereo mode, but you're actually hearing things in different ears and hearing things clearly. This is a very powerful band and practice bass and demo recording tool. So.
And I'll just add on to that once you get the gain set right on an MV88, it handles loud beautifully. Like it records concerts and loud sounds just exceptionally well. So it's one of the things that really shines about that mic. All right, next question. You guys defined gain, but could you specifically define what gain staging is?
Okay, so gain staging, essentially you want to start at your sound source and work your way down. So I think proper gain staging, that term is typically used with, say, something like utilizing a mixer. So you want to make sure that from the start, this microphone is not clipping, and then get that to a good working level, and then move your way down the line. So if say you're utilizing a mixer, you want to set your gain for that particular microphone to where that's not clipping, and then adjust your fader so that that particular channel is going into the master bus, and then adjust that level from there. So essentially, yeah, you want to start at the microphone, make sure that's not clipping first, and then move your way down the line with whatever, sort of outboard gear, plugins, et cetera, that you have. But it all starts here. It all starts with the gain of the mic. Yeah. And that's probably, depending on the person, that's probably a wrong answer, but that's how I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Me too.
All right. Next question. Which headphones do you recommend for monitoring?
Ooh, the ones on Corey's head are exceptionally fabulous. I have them right here, too.
I'm going to probably not hear you here, but so these are the SRH 1840s. We actually met up yesterday on a call, and I was talking about this, but the MVI, which we're plugged into, has a headphone monitoring, so you can do real-time audio, but these are open back. So these allow me to hear the room around me, hear my voice a little bit better, and it's a preference thing. It really depends on if you want to be fully isolated. Yeah, they're the companions, the SRH 1540s.
Yeah, the closed back. So I prefer these, but again, it's personal preference. But they're so comfy to wear for a long time. I don't know if you can see, just nice and soft, memory foam. It's good. Great stuff.
And I'm wearing a pair of 535s today to monitor the session. So it's really just a matter of preference and opinion. And if you are looking for a full setup, we do have some bundles that include headphones and earphones for monitoring. There's an MV88 Plus, obviously the MV88 Plus video kit, which includes the tripod and the phone holder and the clip and all that good stuff. But then there's also a kit called the MV88 Plus, or called the Videographer Kit, which includes everything in that in the 88 Plus video kit, in addition to the Rycote Windjammer, which is great if you're doing any outdoor recording for blocking out wind noise, and a pair of 215 wired clear headphones. There's also a couple of other kits that include an MVI with a PGA 48 and a pair of 240 headphones. So I think, it really just especially if you're doing like a podcast, it's mostly going to be spoken words. So I don't think you need to worry so much about, really sophisticated monitors, but anything is definitely better than nothing. So
Yes.
Awesome.
But I will say that if you are doing a podcast that involves multiple speakers or multiple, there's an interviewee, whether that's remotely or, hopefully very safely in the same room, then, headphones are going to be key so that you can hear each other properly. And, and then if you have any music or any other cues, that you can hear all that and it's not coming through your microphone.
I also think that's a good tip too, to help with that issue when you have guests that, as the person mentioned in the 88 plus bidirectional mode question, that's moving around a lot. I find that if you let your attendees monitor themselves as well, that might also cue them into, oh yeah, I should probably stay in line with this microphone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right, this next question is about the MV88 Plus. If the mic is in the phone port and you want to do a longer session, how do you also power the phone? Is there some type of splitter?
There is, and I can't remember the name of it, Cheryl. And you look like you know it and have it right there.
I don't off the top of my head because it's a very strange name and it is not what you would expect.
No.
It is. I'll pull up the FAQ really quick. I believe it's an Apple dongle and it's a camera.
A camera kit?
Dongle.
Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah. Hold on. Let's see. Powering. I'm going to the Shure FAQ, basically, by the way. If you're not familiar with the Shure FAQ, there's a lot of great answers there. And if you ever have an audio question, I highly recommend going to the Shure FAQ and typing it in. You'll be surprised how many answers and how many things we've covered there. It is called the Apple Lightning to USB 3 camera adapter. So what you can do is you plug the MV88 directly into your phone and configure the mic, and then you disconnect it and you connect the Apple Lightning camera adapter that I just mentioned. Then you connect the micro B to the USB cable to the USB port on the Apple adapter, and then you connect the Apple phone charger to the Lightning port on the Apple adapter, and then you set up your phone and MV80 on your tripod and begin filming. So if you go, and that's just the 88 Plus, by the way, that's not the standard 88. If you just Google, if you go to the Shure FAQ and search powering phone with MV88 Plus, you can find the full directions there as well. All right.
Basically, yeah, the limitation with most of those is just you need to have something with data transfer and power transfer, and a lot of those accessories do not. So
yeah, and the Apple one is really the only one that's going to be able to do that for you. So
right.
All right. Next question. Are there compatibility concerns to be addressed when looking at mobile apps and transferring those recorders into whatever DAW you have? i.e. Apple versus Android, or is this app compatible with Adobe Audition but not Audacity, or are things easily transferable regardless of what DAW or computer you have?
I go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it depends on how you're recording it. Like with ours, for example, it defaults to a WAV file, so you're going to be able to get that into any application that you choose. But Corey, what were you going to say?
Yeah, so within the app, you can adjust the sample rate and bit rate. So, you can go up to 24-bit, 48K audio. But depending on, if you already have an existing session and that's in a different sample rate, that may give you some issues. I know that with, say, GarageBand, which we've referenced as a free DAW, that automatically converts it to a 44.1 file. So if you want to just on the front end be able to not have any issues, you want to maybe just go to 44.1 when you're recording in the Motive app, so that when you export that WAV file and import it into your DAW or wherever else you're editing, then it's the same sample rate. I'd say that would be the only potential compatibility issue, is you want to make sure the sample rate between your session file and your recording file are the same.
All right. Next question. Could you please explain more about plugins? What are they? Examples, practical use, etc.?
Yeah, so I utilize GarageBand a lot. There's a lot of really cool, whether it's that or Logic, Pro Tools, etc. There's a lot of really cool, just quick settings, where you can select, I want this to sound like a narration vocal, or as I referenced earlier, I want to sound like a robot. But when it comes to plugins, there are some, as you can see kind of visually down there, the blue little fake rack mount, that's a compressor. So, compressor or limiter or, perhaps like a reverb plugin can help just, kind of transform your sound to sound, more professional studio quality, despite your, recording environment. So once again, as we referenced earlier, neither of us have, or the three of us don't have, an acoustically treated room, but that can, allow you to add, any sort of room textures, and a little bit of compression can go a long way with keeping the levels of your voice, more consistent.
All right. Then the next thing was actually a comment from when we did our poll of an option that we actually forgot to include. This person actually uses an external digital recorder, a Zoom H2 to record. And I know a lot of people do that. Yes.
I've actually recorded podcasts on remote digital recorders. Oh my gosh. All right. Yeah.
Yes. There's some really good ones out there. We were just not thinking.
And the funny thing is I actually have an older Zoom H4n hooked up right now to my output from my MVI to record a cleaner audio stream than what we get from the GoToWebinar recording. So it's
standalone recorders are great.
They
here. Work too. Yeah. There you go.
I've got my L8 over here. But yeah. All right.
All right. Next question. What about Dante recording? Can you guys speak to that at all?
I can't. I don't have my first level certification yet. I know what it is, but what about you, Corey?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I have my first level certification. I mean, I'd say that, that's not really what we're here to talk about today, but it is an option. Basically, that allows like a digital patch bay to, run one network cable from, whatever interface you have to various audio devices. But at the end of the day, you're still plugging, typically still plugging an XLR cable into something that just converts it. So,
exactly.
Shure makes a lot of, Dante-enabled products, but not necessarily what I would consider the first use case for podcasting.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next question is about the LAV, the MVL. Just to clarify, is that a TRRS or TRSS?
TRRS.
All right. All right, next question. It says that the Motive family are all digital microphones. Does this mean they do something differently than your usual dynamic or condenser microphone?
Yeah, essentially they're converting within the microphone itself your analog signal to digital, as opposed to this, which is just taking an analog signal and electrifying it in an old-fashioned way. So no digital conversion here.
All right.
And, it also allows for various settings within the app or in, the case of the MVI or the MV51 on the front, to allow you to change the sound properties and, gain levels, et cetera, of the microphone itself, where a standard, dynamic or condenser will not allow you to do that. So
great. Are there any microphones with USB Mini, Lightning, or USB-C connectors for Bluetooth or mobile devices that don't have a headphone jack anymore?
So all of our microphones? Is this a trick question, Cheryl? Okay.
It's a trick question.
Wait a minute. Yeah. So yes. So this is going micro USB out of the 88 Plus to Lightning for my iPhone, but this also comes with a micro USB to USB-C cable to get into Android devices, which I don't have right here. And then there's also this one that's micro USB to USB 2.0, which comes to get it into your desktop. So, yes.
Yes. All right. And then what is the model number, that 250 condenser tabletop mic? Does it simply plug into USB? I don't.
Yes, that's this one, the MV88 Plus, I believe. And it can plug into... All right. Well, sorry, Cheryl, what are you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I'm wondering, the tabletop mic is kind of what's throwing me a little bit.
Yeah.
So the MV88 Plus is the one that Laura just showed, and that is $249 US. Check your local dealers if you are not located in the US. And yeah, it plugs into Lightning or USB-C for some Android devices, device compatibility depending on the device itself. And then you can also use it with a USB 3, I think, correct? although we don't include that cable with it, but any standard USB cable will work, micro B to USB. And then when you say tabletop, you might be referencing the MV51. That one is actually, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's $299 US.
$199.
Oh, excuse me, $199 US. So that one's actually cheaper. And that's the MV51. So
Right.
all right. So I think you guys covered this a little bit, but maybe we'll just ask what your opinions are. What is the best podcast recording software? What's your favorite? Let's do that.
Well, I mean, I like Logic, but that's because I like using a DAW to record music in general. So if I were to wear just a podcasting hat, I don't know. I mean, I think Audacity is pretty rocking. What do you think, Corey? Do you have any preference?
Me personally, because it's free, I've referenced it many times here, but just GarageBand. You know, if you're just getting started and you don't really know if you want to fully buy in, or you don't necessarily have that extensive of a recording background, GarageBand can get you up and running and started very quickly and get some really good sounding recordings, high quality recordings, right out of the gate.
Perfect.
Some of the other things like Anchor or Audacity do let you publish directly from within that platform, so that's something to consider. If you don't feel comfortable doing the publishing side of it, that's another way to look at it too. Use one that has that feature built in.
Great. All right, next question. Do you find an inline preamp like a cloud lifter necessary and or performs well with Shure's dynamic mics, specifically, of course, the SM7B?
So I'm using a cloud lifter right now. Corey, you are not today, correct?
Right. Yeah. So the MVI actually has had an update. I think it's been a while now, but it's a 20 dB gain boost. So you can use it with or without it. It really depends on the application. If I was, going to be doing a very high quality home recording, I may want to use something to get it up to a working level, depending on your interface or your preamp. But in the case of just live streaming, this does more than enough with this just DSP enabled 20 dB gain boost. So
awesome.
Configurable through the Motive app.
So, and I'll just tag onto that, and I'll say, if you are looking for a preamp for your SM7B, two that we have seen to be very popular are the Cloud Lifter CL1, and then SE Electronics makes a preamp called the DM1. So those are two very, very good options. Look at that. You guys are so good. I love it.
Show and tell.
Show and tell. Show and tell.
All right.
But again, Corey is not using that right now. I'm using it just because I had it set up from something else. So you don't have to use it, but we recommend it.
Corey, that was news to me. I did not realize that we had that update. I'm going to have to, I always plug my MVI to my laptop. I've got to go into my Motive app and download my firmware update. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when I did a live stream a few weeks ago, this provides phantom power, but when you have it plugged into an iPhone, it only provides 12 volts. So that doesn't work with at least the DM1. I can't speak to the Cloud Lifter. So the only option is the 20 dB boost, and I found great results for it. So why not?
Yep. So heck yeah.
That's exciting. All right. Next question. I noticed that you guys aren't using a pop filter. Would you recommend it for podcasting?
If you're not using the SM7B, yeah, but it has this amazing kind of built-in pop filter. Not just this windscreen that you see on there, but it's actually the diaphragm is way back here, the capsule. Are you going to show and tell? You're like, here, I'll show.
I was going to, but I don't know if that would work out.
It might be a little loud, too, if you take your windscreen off. Oh, she's doing it.
So, yeah, typically, there you go.
Well, that's what the mute button is for.
Ah.
But even without it, I'm not having too many plosives, even without it. But you can see the capsule doesn't start until there, so you have a lot more wiggle room. But yeah, I would recommend a pop filter, if not.
Yeah, that's typically something we'll talk about as an optional accessory. It has a dual purpose. I think that, with a condenser microphone, it controls some of those plosives. But it also, gives you a reference point to allow you to maintain that proper distance that we talked about earlier. You're able to reference and gauge how close or far you are from the microphone and maintain consistency.
Mm-hmm. One other thing that I'll say is I am a notorious pee popper, and a nice little sort of workaround if you don't have a pop filter or you don't want to use one or you can't whatever. Just taking the microphone a little bit off axis helps a lot to kind of let those P's kind of pop away from the microphone, over the past the microphone. So that's another kind of simple, cheap solution if you need one, but you can't get one in the moment.
You can also make your
Not
own
really with the
out of
KS8, though.
pantyhose and a hanger.
There you go. Done.
Don't really have either of those things, but
No, well, you can find them.
All right.
Cheesecloth and a hanger. I don't know. Anyway, whatever.
So this next question we've kind of already answered, but I'm gonna kind of reframe it. The question is, any plans for Shure to come up with a USB-C mic? Well, obviously the MV88 Plus does have a USB-C cable with it and works with most USB-C devices. But I would say then to the panel, do the other Motive products like the MV51, 5, and I, can those be used with an micro B to USB-C cable?
that's what I'm using right now with my MVI. I'm using the MV88's micro B to USB-C straight from this, which doesn't come included with this at this time, but is available through our parts department. But I'm utilizing this straight into my USB-C jack on my MacBook, and it's working just fine.
Awesome. And then just to kind of follow up on the other side of that, I'm using an MVI into my USB-C port using a USB-C to USB adapter. So that works just as well.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing too. So there you go.
One of these. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Next question. What advice do you have for DIY deadening sound, like acoustic tiling in studios?
Blankets. Yeah. I mean,
something
blankets, comforters.
Something that I've seen and heard a lot of people doing, if it's just you, or if you're very, very close with the person that you're podcasting with, is to go into your closet. You've got all those clothes hanging up around you, and it just creates a really nice deadened sound. I've seen pictures of people sitting in their closets recording, so it's a good.
Yes.
Also, books. Books definitely. I mean, they're varying sizes. They're pretty dense, and if you've got a bookshelf, strategically placed, that could serve as kind of a DIY solution.
Great. All right. Next question. My internet was out until just now. Will this be available for later viewing? Yes, it will. We are recording it. We do usually take a couple of days to edit it and just make sure the audio is nice and pristine for you. And so it should be available in a couple of business days at shure.com/webinars, along with all of our other past webinars. Okay. Next question. I have an MV88 Plus, but need to buy the replacement cables. Are they sold separately? They are sold separately through our parts department. If you're located in the U.S., you can call our parts department directly at 1-800-516-2525. I'll repeat that number, 1-800-516-2525. I think I have that right. If you're located outside of the U.S., you can go to shure.com and find your local regional parts and service department, and they do sell that separately. And just give them a call, and they'll get it out to you. So,
we make long and short versions too.
Yes, they do. All right, let's see. Next question. I've recently invested in a mic, boom arm, shock mount, and extra parts to make it all work together. Now I'm feeling that I didn't buy the ideal setup, and I'm quite frustrated with the manufacturer and quality concerns of what I've purchased. Should I try to sell this setup sooner or later? I'm outside of a return period, unfortunately, and cannot get a full refund. Ooh, this is an interesting question.
This sounds like an existential crisis. I don't know. Yeah.
We've all made that mistake.
We've all made that mistake. I mean, keep it as your B rig. If you can't return it, or sell it if you need the money, but
start swapping things out,
Yeah. Build it piece by piece. All is not lost, friend. All is not lost.
All right. Next question. I have a PG27 USB mic. Should I use this when I'm leading Zoom meetings or go with Zoom's audio? I use playlist on Spotify and speak in between songs. How much better could I expect the sound to be?
Wow, that's fancy. I like that. Zoom is tricky because you do have a little bit more control over the mic settings than you do in some other platforms like BlueJeans, for example, or GoToWebinar. So you just want to be sure if you are using a USB mic that it's set to listen to that mic and not your internal mic, which you can do in your system settings. On a Mac, it's much easier than a PC, but just make sure that Zoom is using that microphone as opposed to the default mic on your computer, but it's definitely going to sound better than your internal mic.
And in regards to...
Yeah, and...
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, in regards to playing...
So...
Go, Corey.
Corey, go!
Okay, so I just recently recorded a podcast on Zoom, and there were 5 different speakers, and the best way possible. The editing is slightly difficult, given you don't really have a clap or any sort of like way to timeline things. So that part gets a little tricky. But if each person has their own setup, their own USB mic or interface with a microphone, and you can have them record simultaneously into a DAW while they are on the Zoom call, then they can send you that file and you can edit that all together. So you're maintaining this conversation using the Zoom or whatever other conferencing app, but then you are able to edit high quality audio after the fact with that. So that is the easiest way / kind of difficult way depending on who's doing the editing. So.
And then I would just add in, you mentioned that you're playing Spotify playlists and speaking in between them. There are some complexities when you're trying to play audio and then also use a microphone over most conferencing apps. But there are some solutions around that using a couple of different options. If you go to the Shure FAQ page and look up like Zoom aerobics class, I know it's kind of weird, that gives you some solutions. There are some solutions out there where you can kind of loop back the audio through whatever interface you're using. You can also reach out to our contact team by going to shure.com/contact, filling out that form, and that's how you can get in touch with our application support, and they can answer all sorts of setup questions for you. Okay, next question. I have the MV51. If I have 2 of them, can I record with both of them on my smartphone going right into the app you offer?
Not at the same time, unfortunately. That is a limitation of the devices. It can only accept one USB mic at a time.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Oh, how do I remove the desktop image? I can't ever see what you guys are holding up and showing. Frames are too small.
Oh, no.
Sorry about that.
Oh, where?
Sorry.
I can stop sharing my screen now. How about that? That would be smart.
Oh, yeah, that might help. Okay.
How do I make that go away? I don't even know. I'll find it. Keep talking.
Next question. What would be the practical advantage for podcasting using the larger diaphragm of the MV51 over the MV5?
Sorry, I was not able to multitask. What was the question?
The question
advantage of using the MV51 over the MV5?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Corey, were you going to go for it?
I was just going to say, in my opinion, and once again, sound is very subjective, but I would say the MV51, if anything, is just more versatile.
Mm-hmm.
You could use it for the speech application, but you could also use it for music recording and etc. So, but as far as functionality, they kind of they serve the same purpose. It just really depends on what you're recording with it. So. I'd say if you're planning on buying one, the MV51 is more versatile, and I frankly like the desktop or mic stand feature of it. So,
okay,
I don't know if that answered that or not.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm just kind of going through these, making sure because we've answered some of these. I don't know if we can answer this one because it would definitely be better for our systems team to answer it. But I'll present it just in case you guys know. Are the Shure Dante products not good for podcasting if we are including musical instruments or mixing multiple feeds into the DAW/DVS for the podcast?
Well, if you're using is this a live stream or a podcast? Because that could help. But yeah, I don't even want to attempt to answer that because
Yeah.
you got to know more variables and info before you can dive into that one.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot going on. And what I would do is I would advise that you can open up a ticket with our support team at shure.com/contact. And there is a great team of guys and gals that just know a ton and are always answering all sorts of questions. So they can really kind of, with a little bit more info, kind of talk you through some solutions for your setup and make sure that you're getting what you need. Okay, and I think that wraps up. I'm just going to ask this one last question, and I'm going to answer it. Is it true that the SE215 unis are becoming discontinued because of smartphones moving away from the 1/8" 3.5 millimeter connections? There are no plans to discontinue any of the SE products at this time. So no, we are still offering them. And the SE215 CLs are a major staple in our monitoring systems as well. So those are going to be around for quite a while. So no plans to discontinue at this time. All righty. So I think that just about wraps it up. If we didn't get to your question, or if there's another question that pops in your head, you can always visit shure.com/contact to ask our support team. They can answer just about anything you've got. They're a lot of smart people, and we're really lucky to have them on our team. So we want to thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you learned a little something. I know I sure did, especially about that new gain boost on the MVI. I've got to download that update.
Yep, it's awesome.
So thank you all so much for joining us, and we hope to see you on the next one. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.